Okay, so I'm here at Potafes and I got the starting hours wrong. It was supposed to be 11 a.m., but I went here at like 9:30. So I guess I'm strapping in for like a 1.5 hour wait, but here I am.
Long time no see, everyone. As you can see, I'm got a bit of a new backdrop here because I'm in a new house. It took a lot of time to arrange to get this new house, hence not a lot of new videos, I know. But hey, I've got no more roaches in my house and I'm happy. But yeah, for the lack of videos, I've got something big to make up for it. Don't worry. Since I live in Japan, I recently got to go to the recent Winter Potafes, which is shorthand for Portable Audio Festival. It's basically the biggest audio convention in Japan, arranged by E-earphone, the shop, which is like essentially the mecca for all portable audio stuff in Japan, right? And I got to see a lot of new cool products, and I met with some big figures, let me tell you. There's a lot to talk about, but for this first part, I just want to focus on the stuff that I got to try in this convention. So let's get straight into it, shall we? First, I wanted to check out your good old anime sci-fi stuff, right? So I demoed the Tanchjim Origin. I loved the Tanchjim Prism so much so that I sold the Moondrop SA to buy it. So quite a big lover of that. So the Origin though, it didn't really capture me in quite the same way. It's not like it was bad or something. It's pretty competent by all means, but it's that with the Origin, nothing really stood out to me. It sounds like an improved version of the Tanchjim Hana, the old Hana, not the revision of the Hana. That's about all I have to say for it, honestly. Now, I also wanted to try the Tanchjim Mino, which was sort of Tanchjim's answer to Moondrop's Neko Cake and Space Travel True Wireless earphones, and the build looks fine, the shape looks good, but it just could not connect to my devices, so couldn't try it out either. What can I say? Going to the Truthear's booth, I got to try out the Truthear Nova, which I'm sure any relevant reviewer who you've watched has basically covered it by now. But here's my short take on the Nova. Technicalities wise, it's decent for the price. The tuning, when I saw the graph, I was a bit worried that the lower mids would be a bit recessed and cold sounding. And well, it kind of is, but it's not so bad. I didn't really like the variations, but I didn't hate the Nova. I just didn't really like it. It's just not my taste. Nevertheless, the bass was clean. It's a bit rounded off, but it's got good impact. The upper mids were coherent. Nothing standing out, but everything plays well with each other. Now, I wanted to try the Truthear Nova with the impedance adapter from the Zero Red. And the staff even agreed to let me try that, but they lost the impedance adapter because people kept going in and out. I don't know, maybe like it was dropped somewhere, so couldn't try that out either. Overall though, Nova is fine, just not my taste. Okay, so after the whole sci-fi anime bonanza, I went to the Visioneers booth. Not because of any particular reason, mostly because it had the least amount of people lining up at the time. I tried the Visioneers Phoenix, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's got a very rich, sort of ever-present bass that was quite pleasing. Very good separation of macro details, but micro details are just good. You know, everything about the Phoenix looks pretty good until you see the price. Yeah, it's like $3,500, so nope. And then I asked to hear something close to the Phoenix, but cheaper. So in came the Visioneer's VE7. And yeah, it's sort of the middle child in all of the VE IM lineups, and it seems to be the sweet spot here. You've got the rich bass of the Phoenix, although it's not as encompassing as the Phoenix was able to do. I don't know how else to describe it. However, the upper mid-range here is actually an improvement. It's not as grainy and slightly harsh. So compared to the Phoenix, the upper mid-range of the VE7 is a bit more controlled, kind of more neutral. Less fun, but it's actually giving it a more pleasing tonality in general. I just wish that these Visioneers releases wouldn't be so expensive, because they would definitely be compelling options were it not for the very premium tier pricing. Now, of course, with so many releases always coming out, there was also a fair share of whatever releases. You know, it ranges from to I don't even like this. I'm just gonna spam them out real quick here. So first are free IMs from Geek Wold. So they're known for cramming a bunch of drivers into an IM for quite a cheap price, although their tunings have historically been very wonky. So we've got the Geek Wold GK200. Now this thing, it's got 6 balanced armatures, 2 dynamic drivers, 2 piezo drivers even, and all of this for $350. Sadly, it's got this really bad vocal and upper mid-range performance that was just unnaturally glaring and hazy, and they really overtuned the piezos like they always do. And the technicalities are not really competitive at the price. Heck, the Japanese guy that tried it before I did, he's like, wow, this thing is bad. It's just so bright and glary. And the staff was just like, I don't know what they did, but that's how they did it. So yeah, no way. Now scaling down a bit on the price though, you have the GK20. It has 3 VAs, 2 dynamic drivers, and another 2 piezo drivers. I swear, like, I feel like Geek Wold just has a whole warehouse of these piezo electric drivers, and they're just giving them out in their IMs like it's candy or something. Fortunately, this is the first decent sounding Geek Wold I've tried. It's, how do I say this? It's got a semi-okay U-shaped signature, but the U part is quite drastic. So technicalities is roughly on the level of the GK100 and a bit of the 200 as well, despite the fact that it's being cheaper. It's about $100 if I remember correctly. And there's already a few reviews out there for this thing, so the GK20 actually pretty good. You can go down a bit more in price, and you've got this unreleased Geek Wold IM. I think this one is called the Geek Wold Goddess, so out with the sort of random alphabet soup and numbers kind of naming scheme into sort of just a name. This IM, it's a 1DD, but its separation, actually, it's only ever so slightly worse than the GK20, which makes you wonder, why did they bother stuffing all the balanced armatures, all the piezo drivers, if most of it could already have been done well in just one dynamic driver? No idea, again. But yeah, it's a really solid sounding, sort of just a normal V-shape IEM with changeable nozzles that have a little bit of an effect on bass. It's quite subtle actually. I didn't notice much of it, but there is a slight bass increase when changing nozzles. Hey, it took Geek Wold many years and many attempts to know how to tune an IEM, but congratulations, they finally figured it out. But I don't know when they'll ever stop driver spamming. So on to the next items. Actually recently I've just acquired a pair of Kiwi Ears Dose, I don't know, this thing. And I know it's got a bit of a gimmick tuning, and I know that there's gonna be a point where I figure out the gimmick and it just doesn't really work for me anymore, but for right now, I really like this gimmick that is in the sound of this IEM. It's gonna be a review of this in due time, but what I noticed in Potafes was that there are two IEMs with a sort of similar gimmick kind of tuning. However, one does it quite decently and the other just doesn't really do it that well. So first, let's see the one that's been done right. It's the DITA Project M. DITA is a very, I think it's very high-endish brand. Like they so far they've only made like single dynamic IEMs, and some of them can reach insane prices. But it's basically the first time this brand is toying with a hybrid design. So they made a one dynamic, one balanced armature IEM. It's a hybrid design, right? But they went and shoved the balanced armature right into the nozzle like KZ. But yes, despite that questionable engineering, the result is a technically proficient IEM with an overemphasized V-shape that offers a really fun, bombastic bass with this really sizzly treble and upper mid-range that it's less about clarity and more about giving you a very sensationalized treble is what I describe. Sometimes though, the sizzle does go overboard, but with some tip rolling and if you pair it with a warm kind of dark source, it helps with that, and it sort of just balances it out into a very really fun sound that is definitely not neutral, but quite enjoyable. It's got cool looks too. It's sort of like, it's resin, but like the way they enclose their dynamic driver, it looks very interesting. I'd say that for sure. And considering it is a DITA IEM, $500 is probably the most reasonable pricing they'll ever get. And you do get a pretty cool looking carrying case as an accessory, so quite like that as well. Now I hope the gimmick of this, the gimmick tuning, it wears off on me, because if I try it in future and I happen to really like it, I don't know where I'm gonna find $500 to buy. And now here's the same gimmick but done not well. The Kiwi Ears Forteza. I was relatively looking forward to this IEM. From the marketing materials, it looks like it's got a really cool resin shell. The price was reasonable. I think it was like $55. So, and you know, I had previously pretty good experiences with Kiwi Ears IEM, so I wanted to hear it out and see what it has to offer. And then when I got to hold it and use it IRL, it's got the same symptoms as other Kiwi Ears IEMs. That being that they look really nice in the marketing materials and on the pictures, but when you hold them in real life, they just feel not great. They just feel a bit cheap. Like, I didn't get the best shot here, but you can sort of see that the resin they use, it feels a bit plasticky and hollow. And when you hold it, it just doesn't feel premium, despite the fact that on the pictures it looks very glossy and shiny and awesome. Yeah, that's just kind of Kiwi Ear stuff in general. But you know, what about the sound? Maybe the sound is good. That's the thing. The Forteza, It seems to be trying to do the Dolce sort of crisp, sizzly treble with, maybe a bit more technicalities because, we're going up a bit in price. But it just doesn't do it well. No. It just goes overboard. Now things aren't just sizzly, they're crunchy. So yeah, no, I'm not down with this. Cool thing was though, the Kiwi Ears booth and the Shower booth were combined, and they gave you a free IM case. Let me take it out, let you see it. Yeah, I got this thing as a freebie from that booth, so this was cool. But yeah, the Kiwi Ears Fortes, that ain't chief. I haven't really covered any Seeaudio stuff on my channel because most of the time their IEMs are just, the tunings are a bit too neutral for my taste, and the technical ability of their IEMs have not really been competitive. I don't own a single Seeaudio IEM, but I got a bunch of their merch. I have one of their mouse pads, I have a plushie of the Ringo mascot, and recently I got this Seeaudio Neko Stand D, which is a freebie from the booth in Potafes, so thanks for this. But yeah, anyway, they released this new 14 driver flagship called the Hakuya. But there's actually 2 versions with different tunings. I just knew this by going to Potafes. The black version that you mainly see being covered recently, that's called the True Sound version. So with this one, the tuning is basically sort of Harman neutral-ish. What amazes me here is that we finally got a Seeaudio IM with good technicalities. It took them $3,000 to get good technicalities, but we're here, so yay. What amazes me here though is that the treble, the lower treble of this Hakuya has a bit of a crystalline effect to it, and I'm hearing actual treble detail being portrayed instead of this sort of sizzleness or just sibilance that you often see in other IMs. And this is something that even flagships sometimes struggle to portray. Not all flagships can do it. However, with this model, I notice a kind of splitting of vocals. Like you can hear where the crossovers are crossing over. So with some songs, vocals have a very dull, kind of thick sounding body, but the overtones sound very sharp and clear, which in turn makes it just a bit disconnected and jarring. Like one voice, it feels like there's 2 substances in one voice. I don't know how, but it doesn't sound nice to me. However, since that's not the only version, we've also got a white version of the Seeaudio Hakuya called the Artist Signature version. And this one, the tuning is much more suited to my taste, and I do think it will be the more popular version of the Hakuya. First of all though, the white shell that they use, I really hope it's a prototype because it looks just ugly compared to the True Sound version's shell. This one, it was just like a milky white shell, which looks pretty plain, and again, the yellow writing on it doesn't help. Hopefully this is just a prototype and they'll have like a pretty looking design coming for it. Now, the sound, it is essentially a warmer and more intimate version of the black Seeaudio Hakuya. It has a bit more vocal focus. Now the crystalline treble effect here, I hear it being a bit reduced, or it's not as prevalent. However, it's still there and it's toned down just right so that now vocals have more body, but they also don't suffer from like a disconnection like with the other Hakuya. Lower mids are also a little bit more boosted, which add to warmth, which I'm always a fan of. and everything sounds just right. It has this great combination of tuning and technicalities. So $3,000 though, it's still quite a bit much for an IEM, but if money was no object and if I could buy anything from this Potafes, it would totally be the Seeaudio Hakuya artist signature version. I hope to get more chances to demo that thing because I really liked it. So this is like barely half the stuff I tried from this Potafes. I've tried to pick out the most notable or at least interesting and relevant ones to cover in the video, but the video itself is getting long. So here's what I'll do. There's gonna be a file full of all of my impressions of all the other stuff I haven't covered in this video that I had tried in Potafes, including a bunch of like flagship headphones from Audio-Technica, that weird thing from Yamaha that's like $4 or $5 grand, and a few of the Final Audio flagship D-series headphones as well, alongside with a few other IEMs that I didn't get to talk about here. You can access that file if you donate to my Patreon. I'll put it at the lowest tier, it's just $1. You know, if you want to hear more of what I have to say about them, there you go. But that's not all. You might be wondering where Moondrop is in all of this. I didn't talk about any of the Moondrop IEMs in this video, right? Well, you're in luck. I got to try out a bunch of the new Moondrop releases, including the Dark Saber and the Solus 2, and especially their recently announced Moondrop May. That's not even the best part. The best part is I managed to see Moondrop's CEO, Herbert Zhang, and we had a little bit of an interview even. So I'll see you in part 2 for my impressions of the Moondrop stuff, especially the Moondrop May, which I'm very impressed with. And you'll get to see the interview with Moondrop's CEO. So stay tuned.